White.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Ask Me Anything for March 27th, 2025. I'm Kellee White. I'm a spiritual medium and psychotherapist, and I'm an author. So I'm so glad to welcome everybody today because we have a lot to talk about. Because I know it's been a boring week, right? Been such a week. Let me just say hi to a few people here. Hi, Ophelia. Hi, Dee Dee from Chicago. Yeah, we are going to talk about grief tonight. It's a deep subject, and if you think this subject is deep, on Monday we have Peter Redgrove on our show with James Van Prague, and it's really going to be a deep show. So please join us on Monday because we're going to be talking about preparing for your death, preparing to die, as Peter is in the late stages. So this is going to be a fascinating, in-depth, deep show on Monday. So please join us for that. Hi, Karen. Hi, Glow. Hi, Vera from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Go Canada. Hi, Vera. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Jeannie. Hi, Jen. Hi, Wanda. Therapy Gal. I love that. Therapy Gal Sue. Hi, Jeannie. Oh, I have a lot to say, Jeannie, about astrology for this upcoming eclipse on Saturday, because we can all feel this energy. It's supercharged. It can be wildly exhausting because it's a very intense energy, and I am going to talk a lot about it. Cattywampus, that's right, Anne Margaret. I have been using that word for a long time now to describe the world and the energy, and that energy is cattywampus. I love that word. It's a good word. It seems to fit. Hi, Vicky. Hi, honey. I'm thinking about you. Hi, Dolly from Buffalo Grove. Hi, Leslie. Hi, Marge. Hi, Lori Counts. She says hi to you, Renee. Hi, Kiko. Hi, Dolly. Hi, Elena. Hi, Karen. Hi, Mandy. Hi, Rose. Hi, Renee. Hi, Sherry and Leslie. Loved my book. Thank you so much. It's called Cracked Open, everybody, and I have it. I think I put it away. It's around here. There it is. Cracked Open. If you haven't read it, please do. It's about my life and discovering the unseen world that I talk about so much now. So I think will find the story interesting. So hi, Sharon. Hi, Kim Ann. So crazy dream last night about bees and the hive and a giant queen bee, like the size of a kitten. Interesting. Bees are and a giant queen bee. You're probably making some great changes here, Kim Ann. That's a great dream. Please, everybody, pay attention to your dreams. They're going to be so significant, and there's so much valuable information that we can ascertain from your dreams. And right now, these are some big dreams that people are having. I've had some unbelievable dreams. I had this strangest visit yesterday from my grandfather who died, 40 years ago at least. Wait, a little more than that, almost 50 years. He died 50 years ago, just about. And he came to me and he said, he said, Grandpa Katzman. Now, which is odd because we just called him by his name, Grandpa Norman, which was his name. But he said, this is Grandpa Katzman. And I thought, that's so interesting. And I have to kind of determine why he announced his presence that way, as opposed, I just thought I have to think about that one. It had deep meaning to it. So I'll probably be working with my dad's ancestors, probably. That's probably what it means. So let's talk about this energy and what's going on. And before I even get into that, I really want to thank Lisa Renee Pitts. Lisa Renee Pitts is one of the stars of Beautiful Noise. And I was really fortunate. I got to go with my family on Sunday, and we went to go see Beautiful Noise. And if you haven't seen it, it's the Neil Diamond play about his life. And Neil is a huge proponent of therapy. And so the story is told through Neil and his therapist on stage. And the story is how his songs, were inspired by what was going on in his life and the depth of his life. And so in real life, the woman that plays his therapist in real life was my mother. And so I've talked about that a lot. It's in my book, and I can talk about it because Neil wrote about it. and he credits her for the play and the inspiration of the play. And so I got to go this week, and I saw it in New York on Broadway, and then we got to see it here in Madison, Wisconsin. And Lisa Renee Pitts plays my mother. And so I got to sit there and have the experience again with my mother. And it was just magnificent and really deeply emotional, all the things that you can imagine. And we got to go backstage afterwards. It was really a funny, kind of a crazy story, because this would never fly in LA. But I walked up, I had a note with my seat number and everything in it. And so I walked up to the first person I saw that was working there, this older man, and I said, I know this is a far-fetched story, but can you give this to Lisa Renee Pitts? She's playing my mother in this role. And I said, I know this is far-fetched. And he looked at me, only in Wisconsin. He's like, sure, I could do that for you. I was like, what? In LA, that would be like, you're thrown out of the theater. Don't even give it a try. But anyway, and then from there, we went to our seats, and it was really lovely. And then they came out and they said that they were so excited that we were there in the audience and that we got to go backstage. And what was really fun, too, to go backstage is the gentleman that plays my husband, Don, in this for the sax, and leader of the sax, was there, of course, and he came out and he was so excited to meet Don. And so it was just a wonderful experience all the way around in a time period that's rocky at best. So life is so interesting. You get some amazing moments, and then you get some challenging moments. And this is the story of life, actually, on Earth. So for me, it was a big deal, and I was so just pleased. And Lisa is just a great actress. If you get a chance to see Beautiful Noise, just do it. And the funny thing is, the chairs they use on that stage, they use these two giant chairs, and Neil sits in one chair and the therapist sits in the other chair. And in real life, I have those chairs, but they don't look like that. They're in real life, they're actually Ames chairs. And I have I have the chairs. And one of them, I'm staring right now. One of them's in my office here, and the other one will be in our living room. But anyway, I just had to say that because I thought that was a fun story. So now I have a kind of a wild story. We had that eclipse on March 14th, right? And last year when we had the lunar eclipse in March, and I said something about a ship, and I said something about, a bridge and a crash. And anyway, the bridge collapsed. This time on March 14th, we had the lunar eclipse, and I was waiting. I knew something was going to happen because on the 15th, we had Mercury going retrograde. And Mercury retrograde, which is still at retrograde until April 7th, Mercury retrograde is all about communications. And so I've always said, double check, triple check before you send an email, before you send a text, before you do anything like that. Check your communications, because particularly on that day, the 14th and 15th of March, was such a powerful time because it was the lunar eclipse with Mercury going retrograde. So it brought in a lot of power. And if anybody ever needs an example of what that means, that particular time, what are they calling this now? Signal gate, where the wrong text went out to the reporter at the Atlantic. Okay, so that is a perfect example of Mercury retrograde at an eclipse. So that was a huge deal. So I had to mention that, not for any other reason other than it is astounding that would happen on an eclipse literally at Mercury retrograde. That's a perfect example. So for the rest of my life, that's the example I'll use. So anyway, let's talk about this next eclipse, because I know that these energies are fierce, and I know that people are feeling them. And what I do want to mention too is this is an energetic portal that we're in, really. And there will be a lot of exits, including animal exits and including our loved ones. I've known of 4 different people that had accidents through death this week, that had lost their parents, and several animals, actually, now that I think about it. And one of those people was me. Let's say, how do I say this? I had a grand dog. His name was Herman. And my grand dog, Herman, was with my daughter Holiday for many, many years. Many years. We saw her through grad school. Years. Holiday had rescued Herman. He was a half a Jack Russell and half a Chihuahua, and he was a handful. But he was a one woman dog. He didn't want to be around anybody else. He just wanted one, the one connection. So when Holiday had her babies, or had the first one, August, she made the decision to, through Dr. Shirley and Pellizzeri's daughter, Sydney. Sydney loved Herman, so Holiday gave Herman to Sydney, where she was a single person for this. And Herman had the best life with Sydney. I can't even tell you. So such a great life with such love. And Shirley got to experience having a grand dog at the same time, just like I did. And it was really a great experience. And unfortunately, it was time for him. It was time. Herman lived to be 18, and he lived a really great life. So he's in heaven right now at the Rainbow Bridge. He went across, and it was an extraordinary experience every way around, all around for all of us, actually. So I know a lot of people have lost their animals this particular week, and this is a hard time. It's a really hard time. But also, we have this eclipse. So I want you to pay attention to your dreams. I want you to rest. A lot of people have been telling me how exhausted they are. This is intense energy. And what I have been saying to everybody, and I said this to even James today, just observe, just sit back and observe, because it's the best thing you can do with your energy right now. Sit back and bring your energy into yourself during this particular time. And on March 29th, on Saturday, we have an eclipse. It will not be visible. It's a partial solar eclipse. It will not be visible in the United States. I don't think, maybe a little bit, but I don't think. And it starts around Eastern Standard Time. It starts at 4:50 a.m. and it ends about 8:43 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you can do the math, and Michelle's going to put up a time for everybody so you can see around the world where it will be. And what I really am suggesting, if you can, is on this day, on this Saturday, on March 29th, to stay home or rest or go into deep meditation, because we have what's called a rare 7-planet conjunction. It's rare with a solar eclipse, and it's all in Pisces. And I'm going to explain all of this, what this means. But in addition to this, because it's not enough, as this year, every time I do any astrology, it's always like, and no, we have something else to add. So it also happens to be on March 29th, the Vedic Lunar New Year. And that's a very mystical day. So we have 7 planets that will be in conjunction with a solar eclipse, all in Pisces. Saturn, the planet of the teacher, the karmic teacher, will also be changing signs after 2.5 years. And it stays in a sign for 2.5 years. So it's changing signs on that day with this conjunction, with this eclipse, and on a Vedic Lunar New Year. So this Vedic Lunar New Year, I'm saying that several times, it's a mystical day. It means the day of enlightenment. And many astrologers believe that if you can cast a horoscope based on that one day, which is March 29th of the year. So you could actually, if you didn't look at anything else, but on this particular March 29th, this is the Vedic New Year, the Lunar New Year, you could actually, cast this, get a lot of information for the year. And this year, according to Vedic astrology, 2025, this year on March 29th is the year of, I don't think I'm going to say this right, but Vishvavasu, which means belief, dharma, or faith. And so here we go with this rare 7-planet conjunction It's going to be at 0 degrees. I'm sorry, it's in the 12th house of Pisces. It's in the 12th house and in Pisces. So the 12th house represents death and losses, also enlightenment. It's funny because my moon is in the 12th house and the moon in the 12th house, and I work with, with death. So it fits. It works for me. So this is a really big deal, this eclipse. This eclipse will shift spiritual beliefs. It shifts the old systems. The old systems collapse. People are going to be seeking deeper meanings in life. There will be financial restructuring. There will be a mass awakening. There'll be a huge focus on mental health and huge focus on emotional well-being. There will also be, with a lot of this, a huge explosion of art and music that touches the soul. So all of our creatives out there will be doing incredible work because Saturn wants you to be, because Saturn is changing that day into Pisces, which we're going to talk about in a second. But Saturn says, I want you to be real with yourself. It's like boundaries do matter. And so Saturn is all about avoiding energy draining people and toxic people. So the last time that we had 7 planets at the same time during an eclipse. So we have 6 planets at the eclipse, and just a short time after that, Saturn goes into Pisces. So 6 planets in Pisces, then the 7th one enters the party, if you will. And the last time, this has only happened 2 times in 2,000 years. This is how rare it is, okay? It's just a very, very rare time. And it's like this ushering in of Saturn on March 29th for 2.5 years, Saturn in Pisces, is like the beginning of a new era. It brings in a new era. And Saturn in Pisces Saturn is a teacher and Pisces is spirituality. And Pisces is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is the ruler of Pisces. So I meant to say Jupiter is the ruler of Pisces. And so Saturn is karma and Jupiter is dharma. So this is going to be, when people say, Kellee, how do I find my life purpose? Well, guess what? You've come ding, ding, ding to the right time, because for the next 2.5 years, we are going to be finding our life paths, finding clarity, aligning your work with a purpose. So you may not know your purpose right now. And what I'm telling everybody is, if you feel foggy right now and unclear and just like cloudy and you can't think straight, that's this eclipse energy. That will break through and you'll start to be able to think clearer, probably about mid-April, because the energy lasts about 2 weeks after the eclipse. But for the next 2.5 years, you will be more aligned with your purpose. Okay, so when people don't know, I assure you, in the next 2.5 years, things will happen spiritually that you're really going to want to take a hold of, and you'll start to feel your soul will say, okay, we're going to go do this now. We need to learn this. So you'll see it's going to be a very different 2.5 years than we have had here on Earth. It's going to be very different. And so again, we're going to have the sun in Pisces, Rahu, which is the north node in Pisces, Saturn, that's joining the party, the moon, Venus, Mercury, and Neptune. But at the same time, they will be aspecting Ketu. And so Ketu is the destroyer. It's the south node. It's the destroyer. And Ketu's in Virgo. And so it's interesting. If you can imagine 6 planets and they're in a party, they're in a room in a party, and then Saturn walks in, right? And Saturn is like, well, I'm the teacher here. And Saturn is here to bring the karmic explosion, if you will, with all these planets. But then all the planets, including Saturn, turn and they face Ketu. And Ketu is the destroyer, and K2 is unpredictable. So there will be lots and lots of possibilities of things that will occur from this eclipse, because the power here is really the K2 is looking at it, because K2 doesn't care, it just destroys, so you can deal with your karma and deal with things that you maybe didn't want to deal with, but I don't want to. Well, tough. Sorry, that's just how this is. And so things may not feel fair. They may feel, I don't understand why this person had an accident. I don't understand why this person, so much of this will have to do with karma, maybe not necessarily from this life, but karma from other lifetimes, that in this lifetime, at this time, the intersection of karma comes in to play for this next 2.5 years. It's all to help to wake us up, to shift our consciousness, to bring us to a place of compassion and kindness and love. And that's what this period is about. So it is got a lot of unpredictable nature to it, a tremendous amount. But this is also comes in with a nakshatra called Uttara Bhudrapada, and that is associated with hidden wisdom, deep healing, okay, and the dissolution of past karma. So this means that we'll get through, working on our karmas, so we get to that Jupiter position in Pisces, which is our Dharma. And that's ultimately why we're here on Earth, to do dharmic work, it's where our soul aligns with our purpose. And that is the best possible place to be in. So really take good care of yourself during this time, particularly this week and particularly Saturday. If you can, go do some meditation. It would be a fabulous time for meditation. It would be a great time just to go inward and eat lightly, drink a lot of water, have a lot of tea. It is not a day to go out and, beat the band with a party. It's just really not. It's just not. And this also will bring us, this period that we're in will ultimately lead us to this deep spirituality and faith and growth and renewal. So just as I've said many times, practice, and one of my clients reminded me of this today, practice kindness, practice patience. Okay, I think it's going to be extremely important during these times. And maybe keep a journal. That might be kind of interesting. So on that note, now we're going to talk about grief, because that wasn't enough. We're going to get into grief. And when we talk about grief, I also have a lot of you guys asked me some great questions, and I can't wait to answer a lot of those questions for you tonight. But let's talk about grief, because this is a period, grief is an interesting thing. It is a natural emotional response, frankly, to a significant loss, whether it's the death of a loved one, which is often what we think of, the death of a pet, a relationship ending. That could be a friendship, that could be a love relationship. I noticed that there are a lot of people separating and divorcing during this period of time. So this isn't, again, Venus is retrograde during all of this time, and so is Mercury. So it could be that. It could be loss of a job. Frankly, it could be the political climate we're in. It could be so many things about grief right now. It's just so many. And so how grief manifests is we can get very emotional. We can get sad, anger, guilt. Guilt comes in as a big one here. Confusion. I've seen so much with confusion, with that. Anxiety, disbelief. That's a big one. You can also, with grief, it can manifest as physically. You have fatigue. Sometimes people will have phantom pain even. I've seen that. Changes in appetite. I always want to check with somebody if they are, how are they sleeping? Are they sleeping? Now, another thing is behavioral changes when there's grief. So that means that maybe there's been a withdrawal from social activities, which would be normal, if you ask me, and difficulty concentrating. And I will share, when my mother died, it was really, really challenging on every level for me, which I'll talk about. And one of them was concentration. It was a big one, because I would just kind of freeze up in moments. Like it was really hard for me. So if you don't know about the stages of grief, let me mention them, because I think anybody who has gone through grief needs to, and is going through grief. And by the way, we come to Earth, we are going to experience grief. We just are. And Earth, school of Earth, is often a school of pain, and it's often a school of deep challenges. It's a hard school, and so grief is one of the experiences. And I know I've heard it said many times that if you grief is because you loved, and I love that. I love that. I agree with that. But grief is many things, and Elizabeth Kubler-Ross wrote a book in 1969, and if you don't have it, or if you know somebody that needs it, it's a great book. It's a seminal book, and it's called On Death and Dying. And On Death and Dying, it was one of the first books it was the first book I ever read on grief years and years ago. And in therapy, or when I was in grad school, we had to remember the 5 stages of grief that she writes about, and we would use the acronym DABDA. Of course, I was an ADD person. I could never remember this one, DABDA. I was like, what is it? What am I trying to remember? Okay, so when you in Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's, who she identified these stages of grief, the first one would be denial. So at any time during any of these of grief, at any time, it doesn't start with denial. It might start with denial. It can be at any of these stages, can hit you at any time. So denial, that often involves struggling to accept the reality that there was a loss. And it may be characterized by a disbelief or a feeling that something is wrong, but you can't quite get it. Another one is anger. So for me, I was really surprised. I never would have imagined. That was the first one I went to. I went straight to anger. And I think I stayed in anger for it could have been a full year. Seriously. Anger, as the reality of the loss or the diagnosis sets in, individuals may experience anger directed at themselves. No, wasn't at me. I directed it at others. I did not. Some people put their anger towards a higher power or God or the universe. I knew that wasn't it. I was just angry. I wanted my mom, and I was just angry. I was just furious. So I really get that stage. Now, another stage is bargaining. So in this stage of bargaining, individuals may try to, negotiate with fate or negotiate with the higher power, making promises or deals in attempt to change the outcome, possibly, or lessen the pain. I have seen people go into bargaining. Another stage is depression. And that stage involves a sense of sadness and loss and despair as the reality of the situation sinks in. Now, what I've often said is the first year you're almost in a shock, kind of denial, kind of anger, kind of all of these. The second year seems to me the hardest, because the second year is when that reality really sets in. And so the 5th stage of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross is acceptance. And while not necessarily a happy stage, it's not like, oh, I've accepted that. No, it doesn't work that way. It's more of a coming to terms and understanding, and it means to find a way forward. So those were her 5 stages. Now, if we talk about David Kessler and his work is extraordinary with grief. If he has grief.com. So if you need to look at grief.com, David Kessler worked with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And they wrote a book together called, and it's a great book, called On Grief and Grieving. On Grief and Grieving. It's finding meaning of grief through the 5 stages of loss. So finding meaning. And it is invaluable. It is a terrific book. And then she passed away in 2004, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. But David Kessler continued her work and his work. And then he has many great books. But one of my favorite books for David is called Finding Meaning, the 6th Stage of Grief. And I think that's a really important stage to get to. And it's a process. Nothing can prepare you for grief. Nothing. I don't care that I knew my mom was going to die at a certain time. Wouldn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I had suffered ahead of time thinking about, for a long period of time as I took care of her. And it didn't matter. That moment that they're gone, it's for me, and I said this on the show with James on Monday, it feels like, and I believe this to be true, their soul is pulled out from the energetic connection is pulled out. Now, I'm a medium. I understand they are always around us, but I don't care how many mediums are out there that are listening to this. When somebody you love passes, it's a different story. It's a game changer. It changes everything. We had Carrie Gonia on our show on Monday, talking about ancestral healing. And she said something that was very poignant. She said that she'd been working with grief like me forever, for years, 20 years, I think she said, until her dad died. And that threw her for, I'm telling you, at least 2 years it threw her. And that was when she really understood it, because when you have that, you understand it for life. You understand it for life. That just is it. So the 6th Stage of Grief with David Kessler, and he also has a workbook with that. So if you know somebody or if you are needing this, that might be a really great resource for you to look at. And my personal spiritual perspective on grief is that grief gives us a perspective. It gives us a new lens. It brings us wisdom and compassion for ourselves, for others, and it's a necessary road for soul growth. Remember, we signed up to be here. We signed up to be here at this time. We signed up to be here at this time so we would learn the deep lessons, the big lessons, which are kindness, compassion, understanding, empathy. These are the big forgiveness. We're going to be talking a lot with Peter Redgrove on Monday. We're going to be talking a lot about forgiveness as he is dying. We're going to be talking about that. So some of the tools that you can do for managing grief would be, and this was one that my mom always talked about, and it was scheduling time every day to grieve. So if you are in deep grief, maybe scheduling a time to grieve. So you say, Kelly, or whoever, Kelly, I'm at 10 in the morning. I'm gonna grieve from 10 to 10:20 or 10 to 11. There's something about scheduling grief that actually helps. If that's one thing to do, but also explore items like, or strategies such as journaling, maybe journaling how you feel, mindfulness, practice. I'm in the body now. I'm breathing, practice being mindful. And also practice or set like meaningful rituals to honor your loss and to support your healing journey. That would be a really good thing to do. And healing and moving forward it involves acknowledging your own emotions. So how do I feel right now? Another thing is maybe seek support. Now, when my mother died, I just wanted to be alone. And by myself for weeks, actually. Just wanted to be alone. It was so painful that I couldn't talk to anybody, and I didn't want to talk to anybody. There was nobody that could bring me comfort. Nobody. It's such a personal journey in grief when you've had great loss. Now, that was just me, but others may need people around. It's such a subjective thing. It's such a personal thing, but there's no wrong answer here. No wrong answer. This is however you feel is how you feel. Okay. So acknowledge your emotions. Don't suppress your feelings. I did not suppress my anger, to the chagrin of many. Be patient with yourself. I probably shouldn't have been driving during those times. Um, because there's no right way to grieve and there's no wrong way to grieve. It's just there's no right or wrong here, but allow yourself permission to feel and to grieve without any judgment or any pressure. If anybody says move on, really, I have big words for those, but I'm not going to say them. Whenever anybody says that, nothing sets me off faster. Reach out if you want. Reach out to other people to support you. Maybe a good friend or a family or a support group. Consider professional help. Now, I do grief work. I do grief counseling. You can always see me. I have sessions available now for April, and I do work with grief I'm also a licensed psychotherapist, so I do work with grief a lot, and I work a lot with grief. So that is something to do. And also, maybe practice prioritizing your physical health if you can by doing simple things like sleeping. Are you eating? Those kind of things. Are you drinking water? And sometimes, again, when this happened to me, the last thing I was interested in was a hobby. Some people will say, well, get a hobby. And I'm like, I got your hobby. Yeah, this is not going to happen. And again, I allowed myself until it just ran out of my system. And ultimately, it will run out of your system. It ran out of mine anyway. So, again, honor your loved one, explore your values, find purpose and meaning. And for me, the purpose and meaning was to do the work that I'm doing now. And that was a really, really important thing. And just be patient with yourself. And moving forward, and this is a big thing here, moving forward does not mean that you're forgetting your loved one if you move forward. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. It's about finding a way to live with your grief and honor the memory of your loved one while embracing the future. And you may not know when it happens, when the grief happens. You don't know when it's going to happen, and you just don't know. So you have to really honor yourself on the journey that you're on here. Okay? So I hope that helps a lot of people here. And people always ask me, when is a good time to see somebody like me? It all depends on the person. I have said anywhere from after somebody passes, anywhere from a couple of weeks to a month it all depends. It all depends on you. So when I lost my mom, and I use that as the big example here, and bless her heart, Mavis Patilla, my mentor and who I just love so much, she was like, Kellee, I'm gonna have a session with you. And she insisted, and I probably was not in a space for that. This is Mavis, and I was not in a space for that. Yet we did it. We did it more than one. And of course, James. And so I had a lot of great help around. And I was trying to hold up the rest of the world that my mother had supported, because my mother didn't want to believe, had any desire to believe that she was going to pass. So that was a tough one. And everything, it was all not easy. Grief is not easy. It's just not easy. So take your time with all of it. So let me answer some questions. And before that, remember everybody, we have a Roots of Healing, the Game of Life retreat on June 20th to 23rd in Burbank, California. We used to say in beautiful downtown Burbank, but it's not downtown Burbank. It's really Toluca Lake, and it's beautiful. And I'd love you guys to be a part of it. It's a 3-day retreat, and Carrie Gonia is going to be there, and we're going to be doing a family constellation. Dr. Shirley is going to be there talking about somatic work and shadow work, which is going to be really amazing. And I'm going to be there doing the spiritual connection and talking about spiritually, why do we incarnate? What is our significance here? And I'll be doing readings for people too. So it's a beautiful setting. If you can join us on June 20th to 23rd, it's our first time we're doing something not online, and we're going to do it in person. So we're really excited. We've got special events planned and dinners and all kinds of cocktail receptions. It'll be really fun and really important for healing. So, and then I have a crystal class on April 26th with Julianne Siegel, and we're going to be talking about crystals and feng shui and how to use them in your business, how to use them in your personal life. Depending on what is going on with your life, this is a perfect time to take a crystal class because, frankly, I think we're all going to need a lot of crystals going forward. And then next week on April 5th, it's all these two classes are on a Saturday. I am teaching a class with Prajna Avalon on autism. And it's really about the transformational journey of navigating autism with Prajna, who was diagnosed with autism a year and a half ago, I think, or maybe it's been 2 years now. And we're going to give a lot of practical tools and a lot of spiritual insights for you or your loved one. So join us if that calls you. And all my events are on kelleewhite.com. So my first question is from Kell Ann Brand. Hi, Kell Ann. She said, thank you for the great work you're doing. You're so welcome. I have a question. In this last week, she said, we've been getting centipedes in the house. So what do you think that means? So centipedes bring, again, marching forward with change here. Kellyanne, that's perfect, because I would say that you've got a lot of change coming up. And November 1st is a 6 of diamonds. So 6 of diamonds is about financial responsibility. So it could have something, a change with career or a change with money or a change. 6 of diamonds is all about fair and balance too. So something about fair and balance, but that's a great, pay attention to that. And by the way, you guys, if you see some oddball things like totems, different kinds of totems, pay attention because they are really out to give us a lot of messages during this time. So thank you for that question. Tiziano Finaricchio says, Kelly, I'd like to know, this is a great question, everybody. Do we bring the disability with us from our past life? So she said, I'm born blind and I was born on 11/25. And she says, thank you, I follow you. Oh, you're so welcome, Tiziana. So her question is, she was born blind. And she said, do we bring this disability with us from a past life? And so here's how I'm going to answer that. It all depends on what your soul is wanting to learn at this injunction, this time period on Earth. So if your soul was needing to learn to for your other intuition to develop more, that could have been a reason. Or could it be karma? It could be. There's so many possibilities of that. It is whatever the soul needed. Now you were born on 11/25, and that makes you an 8 of Hearts. So 8 of Hearts means to deal with a lot of emotion, to deal with emotion and handle emotion. And 10 of clubs. You also have a 10 of clubs with that, which means very psychic, very psychic. So your soul is here to be very intuitive, Tiziana. And I think that would help. Being blind would give your other things more, what am I trying to say? A little more power to them, you know? So I think that's amazing. And Linda Rampmeyer says, Kelly, I lost my precious kitty yesterday. I'm sorry, Linda. That is, again, that's what I was talking about when I was referring to Herman. There are a lot of animals now that, their contract is up and they are headed back home. And you will be with them again. I promise you'll be with them again. It is absolutely going to happen here. So let's see here. Let's see. Let me ask. I've got a bunch of questions here. So this is from Laura Crum. Oh, well, here we go. Let me answer this one and then I'll go to Laura. Hi, Frank. Hi, Kelly. It's my understanding when you go into the afterworld, you still have psychics that you can rely on to help guide you and allow you to focus on the work that you need to do. That's interesting. So it's your understanding when you go into the afterworld that you still have psychics that you can rely on or help you. I think that you would have, I don't know that. That's interesting. That one I don't know, Frank. I have to think about that one. That's fascinating. But I know that we have guides that help us, and the guides absolutely, help us on the other side as well as this side as well. I mean, there's so much wisdom on the other side that can help us to focus on the work that we are going to do. So that's a great question. Thank you for that. Great question. And Laura Crum, you asked a really good question too, Laura. You said, Would the practice of life reviews done while on this planet, while we're alive, would that help us deal with grief when it happens? It's two parts to that. Yes, it would, because it would give you an understanding and a consciousness that would help you understand life and death and understand that. Now, having said that, here's number two. I'm going to tell you what, as much as I knew, it still knocked me out. It still did. So it helped. It helped because I had a consciousness of understanding and working with the other side and all of that. But I don't think anybody can prepare for it. I just don't think you can prepare for loss. I just don't. I wish I could, but I just don't think it's possible. It's so painful that I just don't think so. Great question, though. I'll be thinking about that one. Lori Young. Hi, Lori. Lori said, oh, she said, what did I think of the Nick who played the young Neil Diamond? He was wonderful. Oh my gosh, if you guys get a chance to see the musical Beautiful Noise, it was great. And like you, Lori, I could watch this every single day of my life myself, and I hope they make a movie of it. All right, Renee, would you put that up, please? Jesse L. Dila. Hi, Jesse. I lost my only brother 14 months ago. Oh, I'm so sorry. I lost our mom 9.5 months ago, before my brother. You're still grieving them. Of course. How could you not? That's too much loss. Mike, do you have a message for me? I have chills. Let's get you a card. And your birthday is 11/21, a Queen of Hearts. Oh, Jesse, you would definitely be like, Queen of Hearts means it means the family, like the queen of the family. It means the family. I got to tell you something. They're together. They are totally together here. Is there another sibling? I get another sibling here with you. Is there another sibling with you, Jesse, alive? Because I think you're supposed to be with other family members, particularly a sibling here, and talking. Maybe it's a daughter of yours to talk with. There's something about family that's, you're supposed to get right to family, your mother said. Like right to family. Like no nonsense, right to family here. Okay, hold on a second. Let me get some cards here. Okay, I'm with the rest of the family. They are all together with the rest of the family. Okay, honey. Take really good care of yourself. Really good care of yourself. Okay, wait, hold on a second. I'm going to answer that in a question. Vicki, this is for you. I am just a thought away. I'm right there with you. I'm just a thought away, Vicki. He's right there with you, Vicki. And Lori, this is for you. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, Lori. Be brave, because I know you've got some big things coming up. Be brave. Here you go. Okay, Karen Schumann, how can we help children grieve? That's such a great question. I will answer that. My father died when I was 12, and over 50 years later, I still don't feel I was allowed to express my grief. So, Karen, so that would have make you 62, if I have that right. Yeah, 62, yeah. So, in those days, they were just terrible about disregarding our emotions. Terrible about it. Terrible. I just have to acknowledge that. They sucked at it. It just wasn't even a part of the culture. Now it has changed. So what you can do is you can talk to your inner child, your child at 12, and really go into that, about what that loss is like and what that loss was like for her. Because that's inner child work right there. But what you would do to help children grieve now is have them talk about whatever the loss was, whether it's a mother, a father, a sibling, a grandparent, often the animals, and you talk to them and you allow them their sadness. You talk to them. You can tell them they're in heaven. You can they're angels. You can use that terminology too with them, and they'll understand it. But allow them to grieve. Now, sometimes with children, especially younger kids, we use drawings. Can you draw your family? And sometimes they will draw. Well, it's very telling what they'll draw. Frankly, sometimes they'll draw all in dark colors because they're and sometimes they'll draw just a picture of a mother and no father, or or sometimes they'll draw them with them. And it's really interesting. So allow them all to experience, to let their emotions, and also sometimes they may need a counselor. I mean, it's rough. It's really rough, really rough. So I hope that helps a little bit with that. Okay, so Marilyn McCormick, she said, Kellee, I made the decision to take my sweet Toby cat for surgery. He passed at the vet. She said, I feel guilty that I agreed to a surgery. No, Marilyn, don't go down that road. I'm telling you right now, honey, do not go down that road. You made the right call. You made the call that you did, and it was the right call. And Toby, it was ready. He was ready to go. He was ready to go. And I know he does not want you to go down any guilt. It's really hard. You know, when Herman, I'll use Herman, you're our example today. He was something else, this Herman. We used to call him her man because he was her man. Anyway, Herman, they brought in a specialist in Los Angeles. Shirley was telling me about this vet who was a specialist in aging animals. And because Sydney didn't know if it was the right time, and it was the right time. So I have to say, Marilyn, it was Toby's time. So please don't feel guilt. I know he doesn't want you to feel guilt. I know that. Okay, honey? I get it. Don't go down that road. Okay, you loved him. That's the most important part, because he loves you. Okay, Tippy Landis. Now, this is a great question, everybody. She said, I have a question on your thoughts of ashes. I don't like the idea of separating them and spreading them. I feel they should be kept together. Also, I have several of my pets' ashes and not sure the best place to bury them. I wanted to bury them with me, but it's illegal to do so in New Jersey, where I plan to go when I die with my husband. Tippy, that's such a personal question here. So if you don't want to separate the ashes, then don't. And it's such a personal thing. You know, some people, I was with a friend once, and she decided to clean out her closet of her aunt and uncle and mother and father and every animal she ever owned. And we went to the beach, the true story, in Venice. And she just starts throwing everything into the ocean. And it was like, whoa, it was so much. It was way too much for me. So I've had a lot of bizarre experiences with ashes and stuff. So I understand where you're going from, but you know, it's up to you. It's such a personal thing, you know. It's wherever you're comfortable with, honey, is all good. It all is good there. Okay. So, and I think everybody's going to have their own opinion on what to do with ashes. All right. I hope that helps. So this is from Instagram. Hi, Instagram. People that are watching live on Instagram. Casablanca 99 says, Kellee, I've recently lost my mother. I am so sorry, Casablanca. She said, why is the battle so hard? This is a great question, between the mental thoughts and the spiritual knowing, because you loved her. Nothing. It is not, again, I'm a medium. I went right to the position of great loss. I could not, the battle, I lost that battle right away. Again, I went right straight to anger. I lost that battle. But she said, it's like the brain just can't comprehend that the person is no longer here. That's correct. That's correct. You can't, it's too much to comprehend. And this is a time period where rest, give yourself a lot of love, a lot of compassion, because it's too much for this to handle, for you to handle. And it doesn't matter that you know on a spiritual level where they are with their mother and their father and they haven't, it doesn't matter. It's the one that's left behind. It's a hard one. It's a really hard one, sweetheart. I am so sorry. Even though we know on a spiritual level, there's not one medium. Even James, even when his brother died, of course he knew. We knew, and we know. Doesn't matter. It's still hard, And your birthday is the 7 of diamonds. And let me get you a card. And your birthday was right at that eclipse on the 14th. So I would think that life I'm not sure when you lost your mother. It sounds fairly recently, and that would have a lot to do with eclipse energy. So here, she says, I'm here helping you. Here you go, sweetheart. Okay, she's here helping you with that. And Imbol says, Kellee, last year I lost my beloved sister unexpectedly, and I am devastated. It's really hard losing a sibling because you all come in together. You know, whether you come in with certain the things that are the same, so you all know the history here, and it is devastating. It is devastating. She said, "You said I don't feel her around me, and I don't get signs or dreams." So she is with your parents, yes. And she's got your dogs, yes. And your birthday is July 22nd. And so July 22nd is a Six of Clubs. Six of Clubs is really the heart and soul of speaking your mind, speaking your truth. And so I can imagine, let's get you a card here from your sister here. I will always point you in the right direction. All right. So she's always going to point you in the right direction. She's a guide for you, honey. Okay. She's okay. And this is from Jen Gurney 14. She says, Kellee, I recently lost my husband on March 17th. Here we go with these March dates after the eclipse. I mean, this is an energetic opening. That's what I've been saying. And he was fighting pancreatic cancer for 10 months. It's a big battle. That's a big one. Is it too early to schedule a spiritual grief counseling? No, I would do it. I would do it. She said, I did schedule one for next week. Okay. You know, we'll just go from there. I've never experienced watching a loved one go through this full process. Losing my best friend and soulmate has been heart-shattering. I can imagine that it would. And she says, I've never thought I'd be a widow this young. I understand that. I work a lot with younger widows now. It's the damnedest thing ever. And your birthday is 5/14. And that is also somebody that has come in to learn deep lessons in life, anywhere from 5/13 to 5/19. It's a really powerful time. And I've talked about this a lot. It matches up with the Death Star. So it's a big thing. There's also a lot of great musical qualities that come in. There's a lot of amazing things that come in with that. But anyway, and so May 14th is a 5 of diamonds. So self-worth here. We'll talk about that. Oh, here's the card from him. You are never alone. So you are not alone, honey. You're not alone there. Not at all. Okay. And Rebecca Allen, my mother was Neil Diamond's therapist. That's what she was. She was really great. And you could read about her in my book here. So Elizabeth Preston, great question. She says, is it possible to have delayed grieving? I lost my boyfriend, my grandma, my uncle within a year's time. Yes, honey. They were the 3 closest people to me. Yes, I had too much going on with my life, and I didn't grieve until I had a bad breakup with a boyfriend years later. I went into severe depression. Could it have been grief I never dealt with? 100%, Elizabeth. I know you too, sweetheart. That is definitely was a delayed grief there. I mean, you had a lot going on, and the 3 people that supported you, which was your uncle, your grandmother, and your boyfriend, and they all passed. It's too much for one. It's too much for a system. So what we do is, to protect ourselves, we'll go into work mode, or we'll go into, denial. Didn't happen. And even if it did, it doesn't matter. And we kind of keep going until such a time where it goes, whoop, it boomerangs back. It's like a boomerang, I'm telling you. We can't get by anything. And why is that, Anne Margaret? Because the world is cattywampus. That's what is. Oh, this is the last one I can take tonight. Diane Crease Rupus, she says, Kellee, what is going on? We just lost our beloved 21-year-old nephew in a horrific car accident. Your truth is just what I needed to hear on March 25th. I have chills. Diane, I heard another. That's about the several of the accident stories that I have heard this week involving death. I mean, in the weirdest of accidents. I mean, really some strange ones. And I'm so sorry. This is a really rough time, everybody. This is not easy energy. So please take really, really good care of yourselves and others. But if you can, rest. And Patricia says, when can grief end? Will it end when we join our loved ones? For many people, Patricia, yes. For many people, yes. Some people, the grief, it never ends. Like my grief for my mom is always, there's not a time I'm not thinking of her, asking her for help, or it's just not. It's just not. And I know this is where my faith comes in, because I work with the other side and I see dead people all the time. Believe me, we'll be back together again. She's helping me here. So, okay. I know, too funny, right, Anne Margaret? I couldn't help it. All right, Judy, this is a card from you, from messages from the guides. And then I have to go because I got to take care of my dogs. Never judge another. Never judge another. Here we go. And let's get one card for the group from the spirit guides. Here we go. You are here for a reason. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. You are here for a reason. All right, everybody. Join me and James on Monday. We have Peter Redgrove, and it's going to be, this is a show you do not want to miss. Okay, it's going to be extraordinary. So join us on Monday. And then I'll be back on Thursday. And take good care of yourself. These are powerful times and powerful energies. Thanks. Bye, my friends. See you later.
You've been listening to Ask Me Anything, featuring spiritual medium and psychotherapist Kellee White.